I don't feel like I want to be an opera singer at the moment, not just from a practical point of view, but just from I feel like the creativity of me now being many people, if I can put it that way, I feel like the instrument I have, which my voice and as a conductor, I am sort of in the middle of, or certainly in the mix of, is much bigger and much more creative and much more fulfilling than anything I could get as an individual performer.
Welcome to Leading Notes, where I talk with musicians who are leading the revitalisation of social health in our communities. I'm your host, Melissa Forbes. Today's guest is Liz Lecoanet, an international vocal specialist and choir conductor who's pioneering the use of singing in workplaces and healthcare settings. In 2014, Liz received the Hidden Hero of Sydney Award from the City of Sydney for conducting Creativity Australia's With One Voice Choir, which grew to over 180 members and became the subject of the award-winning documentary Sing Your Little Heart Out. As the first wellbeing choral conductor employed by New South Wales Health, Liz co-founded the Sydney Local Health District Staff Wellbeing Choir with Dr Isabel Hansen, using singing to de-stress, foster social connection, and promote creativity among healthcare workers. She's also worked with Beth Israel Hospital in New York using sound for pain management. Today, Liz brings singing into workplaces to nurture connection and creativity, conducts multiple community choirs across Sydney, and continues to present at medical conferences on the health benefits of singing. Liz Lecoanet, welcome to Leading Notes.
Thank you.
Liz, tell me about your group Singing for Health. What is it and how did it start?
So Singing for Health was born, as you said, with Dr Isabel Hansen. And at that point in my life, I was running many choirs, and Isabel was a chorister. She came along and sang with one of my community choirs. And we were talking after one of the rehearsals, as you do, one of the many benefits of choirs. And I was sort of at a point where I've been doing this for a long time, and at that time, maybe for 15 years, and the amount of people that just tell me, I don't sing, I can't sing, I'm tone deaf, I was told not to sing, everybody hates it when I sing, et cetera, et cetera. And I was just in a mood, I think. It was just the end of a long day. And I just got sick of it. I just got absolutely sick of people telling me that they couldn't sing it, that they wouldn't sing. And because I have just seen all these people over, almost a decade transforming because they've sung. And these are people that don't sing. And I just said to Isabel, I just want to go into a court of law and prove what this does to somebody when you tell them that they can't sing. I was just, fired up and just saying, enough. I just want to go in there and prove legally what it does to your immune system, what it does to your relationships, how that changes your workplace, all of the things that if you tell someone they don't have a voice, what that does to their life and how you are robbing them of being a human being. I'm already passionate about it. I cannot talk about this. I cannot talk about this without just being angry about it, because it's as far as I'm concerned, it's a human right which has been taken away. A lot of Indigenous cultures around the world have not lost the ability to sing and come together as a community. I've lived in Harlem, New York. I've lived in different places where people come together, and singing is what glues it all together and brings us forward. And we don't have that. And it's and my word's criminal. Anyway, I expressed all this to Isabel, who's as fiery as I am. And I expressed all this, and I said, that's what I want to do. And Isabel said, well, that's going to be tricky. And I said, fine. And she says, but at the very least, we can bring singing in line with exercise so that GPs can prescribe it. I said, fine, let's do that. Let's do it. And that was back in 2017. And so that was where the marriage between very much the medical, because she's a GP, right, that industry and my industry kind of came together. Isabel was a medical student at the time. And to be honest, and she has expressed this publicly, she was very much burnt out. And medical training is horrible from what I've heard. Like, it's absolutely horrific what you get put through. And she was absolutely burnt out. And that's why she came to choir. And she felt that somebody had actually recommended it to her to come along. And the way that I ran choirs is very much from my background, which is very much a holistic way, and one in which it is not performance-based. It is around people just finding their voice and having a space to use their voice, even if that is just listening to the group. And so there's no pressure around it, you know. And she found that, and there was also very much a mind, breath, and body connection, which she very much felt was helping her with her med studies. And then as she was about to be a young resident, she said, you know, who needs this is the medical world. And she says, I have a lot of, you know, young colleagues around me who could really use this. Let's do this up at RPA and RPA Hospital in Sydney. And so we went in there, and there was a program which I think now is called MDOK, which is like, Are You Okay? But MDOK. And I don't know if it was called that at the time, but back then, and we spoke to, I think it was Dr. Bethan Richards, who was running that program, a wellbeing program for young doctors around their mental health and their health in general, and connection. And we presented singing. Isabel and I presented singing to the board there, and they gave us a year's pilot program, and we ran it for a year. It was very successful, and then we did it again, and we went back into the boardroom, and I got the whole boardroom singing, and Isabel talked about the medical side. So I'm very lucky in that I've had Isabel as a partner in this, because there's you know, a ton of evidence around the benefits of singing, but I'm not a medical person. I can say, yes, the cortisol goes down, and, you know, you get an endorphin rush, and, you know, all of those things that happen. It improves lung function and all these things, but these don't really mean anything to me, and nor am I working with patients where I'm talking about lung function. For me, I'm talking about, oh, this is how you sing this, and this is how you can use your body in a better way, but I'm not speaking of it in a medical way, whereas with Isabel, she is. So we partnered together, and we run this space. And this was all pre-COVID. And then COVID happened, and we've kept going. We kept going all the way through COVID online, and so Singing for Health is still going up until right now, where we've done medical conferences together to bring this awareness into the medical world, to understand that it is not a choir, inverted commas. I hesitate to use the word choir because it's so loaded and people have connotations around all that, and I'm trying to get rid of that. So that's why I called it Singing for Health, not singing. We were like singing to feel good, and we're trying to find the right words. And then I was just like, oh, singing, what are we doing? We're doing it for health. And so that's where it was sort of born. So it was born back in, about 2017, I think it was. And since then, Isabel's been over in Oxford, and very much still working in the field of community health and putting together mental health hubs and things for the NHS, different things. And we're very much, still plugging away to get singing in line with exercise so that GPs can prescribe it. So, and anything I need to do, a podcast right now, whatever I need to do to move that along, because it just has to happen.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, I've got so many questions. So first of all, when you first launched it at the Royal Prince Alfred Hospital, what was it like recruiting medical people and healthcare workers? Like, did they seem keen? Were they skeptical? Like, how did you go about that process?
Right. So I think, it was mainly Isabel who did that because she was working at the hospital.
Right.
So I was more there to receive them on the other end. Sure. So I didn't actually sort of walk through the corridors and grab people by the arm, although I have done that in other choirs, but and on the street. So
what was it like then when you first started? How were they kind of? Yeah. What was their attitude, I guess,
Oh, yeah. So everybody is different. So in every choir, especially if you're running a choir like a Singing for Health choir, which is very much about nurturing the individual in the room. It is not a collective kind of, here's your parts, alto, now we're going to sing. It's not that experience. So everybody came in with a very different need, a very different place. They'd had a very different day, and they'd come back the following week having had a very different day and a very different week, and certainly skill levels were very different. Some people had never sung before and just came along because who doesn't love Isabel, and some people came along because they had sung in a choir and knew the benefits of singing. Some people came along because they were just curious. So it was very much a mix of people. And I think that's sort of the art of running something like this, is to be able to hold space, for want of a better word, for all of that, and not in an inauthentic way, in a way which is genuinely. And obviously no one's going to, inverted commas, get it right. And actually, if there is a formula, I think the get it right, don't try and do that. Because that somehow takes away, once it becomes that, you've diminished it already.
Don't try to get it right, you mean?
No, that's it. It's like, it's just basically turn up and be present and listen. For me, the key to it is listening. So for the people that came into the room, and these are health workers, so they're very switched on, ready to serve, these sort of, was it A-type, like these people that are very just, they really want to help, and they really want to care, and they really want to get it right. And they're used to getting it, like if they get it wrong, it's bad, right? It's like people can die, and, they can make mistakes, and for a space to not be about that, I think Singing for Health in the health space is actually even more potent, because you've sort of got this group of people who really need to have no pressure on them, who really need to be able to get it wrong, and who really need to be able to embody, just creativity and mistakes, and we don't know where we're going with this, and that's okay. And you can breathe in that space and not in the space of tick, 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 tick. So, and I think society in general has become a lot like that, more so since I've started Singing for Health back in 2017. I think a lot of my other choirs are requiring that space just as much. But in the early days, I think the health workers were certainly really screaming out for it because of the pressure on them.
So you're a highly trained musician yourself, and a lot of musical training is about getting it right.
Yes.
How did you navigate that transition from having that kind of drilled into you? I mean, you're an opera singer, right? Like, talk about getting it right. There's so much striving for an ideal sound and all of that kind of stuff. How did you navigate that switch of mindset for yourself when you're working in a context like Singing for Health?
Yeah, well, I certainly don't think about my any of my training consciously when I am working. I am just there listening to the people around me, and my voice, my body, whatever training that I've had is just the tool for me to connect with the people in front of me. I don't even think about it. Personally, as I've gone through training, as you say, like certainly to sing opera, you do need to go through, it was 10 years training. My initial thought to what you said is I navigated it badly. It's like, I think I kind of failed miserably, actually, because I was a very high achieving perfectionist sort of person. I had comprehension problems growing up as a child, which would probably be diagnosed today, which I haven't been diagnosed. But, so I basically took up music very young. I took up piano, left and right coordination, all these sorts of things, and ended up in opera. And just because I was already a singer and a musician, and I wanted to see, I sort of felt like I wanted to discover what else my voice could do. I had to get rid of the perfectionist thing, actually. I had to practice doing everything at 80% for years, because otherwise the vibrato was too fast. So it was sort of like I had to stop being 110% and pull myself back. So I understand that mindset myself, and I understand how vulnerable I feel when I'm not doing my best. It is a horrible feeling, but within music, there's a softness in the realm of music. We're not in the realm of, one of the trainings that I had along the way, because I was, when I was a student in London, opera student in London, I was being a masseuse to pay the rent, basically. And one of the techniques that I learned at the time was a technique, because my wrists were getting sore, was to do with sound and color and using sound and my voice and that's where I sort of ended up in America and Beth Israel and all these sort of pain management with voice, but using sound for all that. But basically, I had to I had to find out how to use my voice, basically. And I've lost my train of thought. Why was I telling you about Antonia? That's the name of the massage, by the way, right. Which is an incredible thing. But it's I can't remember what I was saying. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're saying is that it is a different way of thinking about the way that you use your voice to how you were trained to use it, right?
Well, the thing is, it's having the training. I have a real awareness of how to use the voice. And I also know what it feels like to be told you can't sing. Or, my experience in London, in the high end of opera was very much, I wasn't living up to the standard that they were expecting of me. And I was a very young singer at the time, and I sort of felt like I was very much in the deep end because I didn't have the traditional path to opera. Most people do a BMUS and then they become a young artist and then they work for, like something like that. I didn't do that. I sort of started doing a Bachelor of Business at UTS, not a Bachelor of Music. And then I was kind of like doing singing on the side, and that segued into, kind of auditions, which I got. And, it was like not at all a straightforward path. So that creativity, which I've lived my whole life with, sort of feeds into, I guess, the depth of my work as Singing for Health, because, I've been told what it is to not be able to sing, so I know that vulnerable space.
Just picking up on that idea of creativity, do you find your work in Singing for Health or with One Voice creatively satisfying for you?
Yes and no. So the honest answer is yes and no. I don't feel like I want to be an opera singer at the moment, not just from a practical point of view, but just from I feel like the creativity of me now being many people, if I can put it that way, I feel like the instrument I have, which my voice and as a conductor, I'm sort of in the middle of, or certainly in the mix of, is much bigger and much more creative and much more fulfilling than anything I could get as an individual performer. I lived in New York for a few years and I was doing shows in New York, and I did feel like I'd come to that point creatively that I was sort of a bit bored on stage, to be honest. I was sort of taking my bows and sort of said, it was like one of those, is that all there is moments kind of thing. And it was sort of like, I did feel like vocally that's, I did feel a little empty by that. So I feel like the universe takes its, it goes in a direction. And sometimes I remember, life's what happens when you're busy making other plans. I used to hate that phrase, John Lennon. Hated it in my 20s. I was kind of like, I just wanted to, sing Traviata at the Met. Why didn't I sing Traviata? Yeah, that's all I wanted to do. Yeah. And I've never sung Traviata at the Met. It's like, I can sing Violetta, but I've never done it at the Met. But then my life took a different direction. And I feel like what's happened is so much more fulfilling and actually so deeply rewarding. And sometimes, because the thing is, I think there's this sort of preconceived idea around opera. It is actually vocally not very different from a lot of the other genres that we sing in. A lot of the shows that I did in New York were crossover shows. So I would be going, in between Broadway and operetta and opera, Baroque, all these different sort of styles within one show. It's just a different laryngeal position. It's not actually that hard. At the very beginning, I remember when I was first in opera, it was like, do not sing another note of music theatre or you're not an opera singer. It was very much, but that's just not the case anymore. And now we understand, because we've all been, stroked and scobed and God knows what, that we understand how the voice works, and metal and opera aren't actually that far apart. So it's just honor the genre, and it's amazing when you give people permission to say, actually, these, because I understand the voice, I can actually take my choirs to a classical place, or to a country and Western place, or to a pop place, or to a music theatre place, which is many genres anyway. So, yeah.
I've seen you lead Singing for Health at the National Summit for Social Health in Canberra just at the end of last year, and you were incredible as a performer. That's how I would describe how you led that group. Like, you put on an amazing show as the leader of that group. I mean, the group, they were all having a ball. It was just a really joyous thing, but like, you were... Wow, you were just a knockout. You know, you were behind the piano, you were running over to the microphone, you were like, you know, herding all of these cats.
I know that wasn't by choice.
And you were one of the most dynamic singing leaders I've ever seen. Do you feel like you're performing when you're doing that, or is it different to, you know, what you were doing in New York and France and all the rest of it? Like, is it different in terms of, is it a performance or not? Because it actually really felt like one for me as someone who was in the audience.
I think there's a part of, if there's an audience, I'm aware of the audience, so that makes it a performance.
Yeah.
But I'm just aware of them in the same way that I'm aware of the people in the room, like the choristers that were there with me that day. And again, when I say choristers, these were just people. They weren't... a lot of them hadn't met, yeah? So these were a group of people, some of which hadn't rehearsed at all. So it was a group of people, and I often don't distinguish between the people singing on stage and the people in the audience. I don't. I actually don't distinguish. It's more in the round for me.
Right.
And I'm just sort of like coordinating it. I just sort of feel like my job is to, again, hold that space for everybody there. And if that's the audience that feels a little shy, or the audience that's going for it, or what they need, I'm just there for everybody's needs. I didn't really feel like I was performing, other than I was doing a job, which was to bring the awareness that singing feels good, you know, and it doesn't cost anything. And this is, and it's like, that was a platform to you know, to make that really obvious.
Yeah, I mean, look, don't take this the wrong way, but as an opera singer, you are such a great mover. Like, you know, you're a really great mover. You really embody the music, you embody the beat, and it's so obvious that you're having a good time, so everybody around you can't help but have a good time. And I feel like, you know, it would be great to have everybody see you work, because I just think that you're so deeply embodied in your practice that it really does infect, in the best possible way, everyone around you, so that it's like, just through your physical presence, you're saying, hey, it's okay to just let your hair down and just absolutely go for it, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I think that just stems from, like I was talking about, you know, with Isabel, and kind of like, I just want to prove in a court of law what this does if people don't have it. I think all of that, it just stems from my, it's not even belief. I just have to do this. Like, I don't know how else to say it. You know, I mean, I'm doing Singing for Health. Yes, I'm running the choir up at RPA, at the hospital, and other choirs. But the whole Singing for Health thing, I'm doing it in my spare time. This is just something that I am doing. There's zero budget. You know, this is just something I am doing because it has to be done. It's wrong. It's just wrong that it doesn't happen. It's like someone going out and protesting, if you like, and saying, no, that's enough. You know, and I don't go out and necessarily because I'm too busy at the piano, but, you know, it's like, this for me is kind of like something which I just feel really passionate, and I always have felt really passionate that I just want people to have that connection with what the voice does, you know, our capital voice, you know, and that we all have that. I don't have it any more than anybody else. It's just perhaps because I've been doing it a long time, because the voice is also, just from a the mechanism way, it's a reflection of our confidence. So, you know, if we're not confident, I'm going to talk like I'm in Fry, and I'm going to do this, and you know what I mean? Like, if I'm not confident about what I'm saying, but if I'm confident about what I'm saying, and I'm kind of like, this is a very easy interview that we're doing, because I'm just talking about my life. You know, it's like, I don't have to prepare answers. I'm not going to get it wrong. I know what my name is. You know, it's sort of, so basically, and if people feel comfortable with what they are doing, and there's a way to make everybody feel comfortable, you know, in a space of singing and music, it is such a gentle realm. Oh, that's why I was talking about the Antonia thing. So in Antonia with sound, they talk about, and a lot of tradition talks about, the yin yang of it, or the Shakti Shiva, or the masculine feminine, the polarization of everything.
Right.
And basically the world of light, the world of doing, the world of yang, and all that kind of stuff is very much about the boxes that we're all ticking. I've got to do this today. We're very busy yang, orientated light people, but very seldom do we actually close our eyes and just listen and actually go into receivership mode. And that receiving, the way that we actually physically listen with our physical body, is a different energy. And that's the realm of sound. It's the realm of music. It's the realm of creativity. It's the goddess. It's the yin. It's the remedy to life at the moment, as far as I'm concerned. We need that balance, because if we don't have that balance in our life somewhere, it's like everything's just gotten out of balance. And when you look around the world, you go, yeah, we've lost that rhythm. We've just gone into this, and there's nothing wrong with the yang world. We need that force of energy, but we need to balance it. Right. And so I just sort of feel like holding that gentle space when you've got people around you who are very orientated to get it right in the doing world. And that can be anybody. You're not talking about just health workers here. I'm just talking about anybody in their lives, in their families, in their friends, in whatever it is. Age, culture, doesn't matter. We're all just on overload, right? So it's the world of listening is you're not doing anything. You're passive and you're receiving. It's the opposite. So before I do anything when I'm working individually with students, or working in choir, or even doing this podcast, like before I do anything, I always listen first to turn on conscious listening, so that I can be in that flow rather than in the flow of getting it right, being a perfect, in that energy. So I feel like when you're talking about me, directing something and that I embody it, I think I'm just embodying the music and the job. I don't feel it's me or any training, if I can put it that way.
Sure.
I don't, and I've seen people with zero training get up and just join me like that, and who are amazing. You think, wow, do you know what I mean? It's like, and I've got professional people who are very trained. And yes, if you're doing a professional show and you're doing 8 shows a week, certainly, there is vocal technique that can help that. But to do singing for health, you don't need any of that. I always talk about it in terms of exercise, what Isabel was saying at the beginning.
Yeah.
You don't need to be a professional soccer player to take a walk around the block and get some exercise. That's what I'm talking about in terms of singing. I'm not talking about, being a professional athlete, even though I am a professional athlete, and I still train professionals to this day. That's not, and actually those skills, now that I've narrowed it down and been around every best teacher in the world, I think that's what I can bring to it, is that I know most of that doesn't work. So I actually know that, all that stuff about kind of diaphragmatic breathing and pushing your diaphragm down, you can't push your diaphragm down. It's impossible. It's got no nerves. It's sort of like, I was spent 10 years in London trying to hold my rib cage out and push my diaphragm down. It's just like, what am I doing? But I was too shy to kind of go, why can't I feel it? Why can't I feel it? It's just like, it goes down. Yes, it does. But that's not how you access it. So just basic things, I sort of feel like, and I throw them in. And once people become aware of that, they get empowered. And if they're empowered, they don't need to sort of go out and be a professional singer with that. But what happens is they go from being a waitress to a manager in their cafe, or they get out of a crappy relationship. They ask their boss for a raise. They do all these, and that's what I've seen. I've just seen so many stories of individual people doing that.
Yeah, increased confidence, do you think?
Increased confidence, and I think it's more than confidence. It's a sense of self. It's a sense of empowerment. It's awareness. Yeah. It's awareness, because this voice that we have, which, we sang with, we moaned and groaned with before language existed as a human being, it's like, it's a dormant power that we have, which is being closed down. Whether that was consciously closed down along the way, let's not go there. But it's sort of like it became just for the singers, and that's it's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. And I think when people discover that, they go, hang on a second. Do you know what I mean? I've got more space in me. I've got more consciousness. I've got more awareness. And it's just embracing that other aspect of us, as you would if it's very much like a meditation or something like that. And again, meditation is 1,000 different things around that. But I think just the act of awareness the act of singing is a meditation. It is coming at your body as I am now an instrument. I'm doing a craft with this instrument, which includes my emotions, my physiological sort of expression of it, my emotional expression of it, my language expression of it, executive function of the brain. We're putting pattern into space, like all of those things.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and you start to play that instrument. You go, hang on a second, why am I doing this crappy thing?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I think these things just occur to us.
Yeah, sure. Look, I've got so many threads that I'm trying to pull together here. So I loved what you were saying about the yin and yang and the balance, because we are so out of whack at the moment in so many different ways and at so many different levels, from the individual right through to the global. And that plays out in, you know, some really terrifying ways.
Yep.
And I'm actually trying to tie what you said there to you going and pitching to the board. Right at the beginning, you talked about pitching to the board of RPA, I'm assuming, or whoever it was.
Yeah.
Now, those people believe in science. They believe in hard science. They believe in data. You know, they want to know what the evidence base is, all that kind of stuff. Yep. And that's one way of looking at the world. But it's also kind of out of balance with the whole other realm of human experience.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so I'm really intrigued by how we pitch this to people who think that evidence looks in a certain way, right?
Yep.
Because, you know, if I saw you in action, that would be enough to convince me.
Right.
Right? Even though I'm a researcher and I understand the value of, you know, hardcore, you know, quantitative evidence and all of that. I get that.
Yep.
But if I had that experience, I'd be like, sign me up, you know.
That's it.
So how did you approach the board? What was your pitch? What do you think, what's your advice to people, practitioners out there who are trying to attract support for this work? Like, how do we convince people? I think in the book, I think it was Jane York, actually, another singing leader from Victoria, says, you know, the people outside the tent who don't kind of get it.
Yep.
What's your advice there in terms of how we pitch this?
Yeah, well, I think, as you say, and I think it's coming together as social prescription in Australia will become the mainstream. I say will become. There is no, whilst I'm alive, this is still going to keep happening. I'm not giving this up anytime soon. But I think the experience of it, because there is a ton of evidence and research around singing itself. I think of all the arts, it's the one which has, as according to Isabel, the most sort of research around it. But you can lead a horse to water and they're still not going to drink it, right?
Exactly.
Right. And you can even tell them, this is what it's going to cost you in mental health if you don't do it. And they still don't listen. And
exactly.
It's like, I know, it drives me insane, which is why you get them singing. They have to do it. Like you say, if you do it, Isabel and I did Wonka back in 23, which is an international conference for GPs. I think it's mainly GPs. I'm not 100% sure.
Right.
But it was about 4,000 GPs from all around the world in at the ICC in Sydney. And Isabel stands there as a GP and talks to her people. I think it really helps, if I'm going to answer your question, to talk to other conductors who are like me that want to do this work. I think you know, until we've got singing for health in a prescriptive way, that we've actually got a framework around it, which we're working on. But until that point happens, I think you need to partner with a medical person because no board is going to listen to me, right? I am only as strong as Isabel, and Isabel doesn't know my side of it. So we've partnered together. We call each other, just for a joke, MD squared, because I'm musical director, she's medical director. MD squared. But it's because of our partnership. I wouldn't approach the medical world if I didn't have somebody in the medical world. You know, it's kind of like if Isabel's going to talk to a bunch of conductors about conducting, that's not going to work because already they're not listening. So basically Isabel does like a 5-minute, here it all is, here's what it does medically. And if you had that, kind of pill in your pocket, wouldn't you give it to your patients? You know, and she says, but don't take my word for it. Liz, off you go. So basically, cool. and then I like, you know, at ICC or these other medical conferences that we've done, I basically get the whole room singing. So everybody will sing. And it's an incredible thing because these are, as you say, people that are outside the tent. They they're like, oh, this is, very soft and not really interested in this. But, everybody's breathing in the room. So they qualify as a singer because they're breathing.
Yeah.
So it's like, put your hand up if you're breathing, put your hand up if you're not. And everybody, and the sound that comes out on the out breath, that is, and putting it into context and making it very accessible. So musically it's going to be something very simple. It can just be a hum, or something. And again, that's my skill set, I guess, but just, having worked with lots of different rooms is just, and I guess that's my performance experience, but I don't think that's something that can be taught. And I think all that it is just listening. I don't think it's a huge big deal. It's just listen to the person who's in front of you. What do they need? How can you help them? And I think if you're coming from that angle, and it's like, if all those doctors in the room come away with like, I do feel better, because you do actually feel better after you sing. You actually feel better. Like you finish a song, you go, huh, do you know what I mean? Like you actually feel good. Yeah. And so once they have that experience and they think, oh, maybe I can prescribe this to some of my patients, and maybe that will take some of the pressure off the health system. Hang on a second, this might be a good idea. And most people you talk to now, because I sort of feel like we're getting a bit of, momentum with this. Everyone I spoke to, I brought I think it was 87 people down to Canberra from Sydney, and they all came on their own volition. And these were New South Wales health executives, First Nations people. This was a very, very different group of people. I had people from Avenue Q. I had all these different people come down, because most of them said it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. Let's do it. And these aren't choir conductors. These are just individuals who were behind, yes, this has to happen. So I think talking to those young conductors, I would suggest they get a few champions on board, people that know how to do it, and some health people that are also aware of how to do it, that can speak to the health world.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. I think attacking it from every angle that you possibly can.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Throw the bus at it.
Yeah.
but can I just say, if you're throwing the bus at it like I just did, you might want to just make sure you got a few safety nets. And the thing is, it's amazing. Even if you haven't got safety nets, strangely enough, community comes in, you fall back and the community's got you, and all of their skills, which you wouldn't even know what they are until they come out. Yeah. It's just like, oh, I didn't know you were a graphic designer. Fantastic.
Look, we're running out of time here, Liz, and I could speak to you for hours about this. I just think that you're on a mission. That's what it sounds like to me. And the way that you talk about your work and the mission that you're on reminds me of some work that's being done in the field, looking at arts and health and singing for health and all of that kind of stuff as a social movement.
Yes.
And that's the way you talk about it. You're on a mission to, change people's hearts and minds about this, particularly those people who think that they can't do the thing.
Yeah.
And so, I just love the way that you talk about it, because it really reminds me that this is a social movement and it really is gaining momentum. And like you say, social prescribing in Australia has become, very, well, I won't say prominent in certain circles. It's becoming much more widely understood. But hopefully, in time, supported by our federal government and our state governments, and implemented as a formal kind of process that GPs and other allied health professionals can use, because we know that the evidence is incontrovertible, and we see it every day with the people that we're working with, the incredible benefits.
Absolutely. It'll become essential. They won't have a choice.
Yeah.
We're already at that point, to be honest. I think humanity's actually past that point. And I actually think it's an essential service. And to be honest, all my 4 choirs and all stayed during COVID. Yeah. All of them.
Yeah.
Every week. And these are health workers that were burnt out before COVID.
Yeah.
And they came to choir every week online to be muted. If that doesn't tell anyone that that's an essential service, what the hell does? And also, I just sort of think that, I hope humanity doesn't come to such a stupid brink, because we always do, to realize something. But as far as I'm concerned, we've already passed that point. And this is going to happen. This is happening, and it is growing, and I have zero doubt in my mind.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to ask you the 3 standard questions that I'm going to ask all of my guests for season 2, and you're my first guinea pig.
Right.
What's the most important lesson about human connection that music has taught you?
It's essential. Yeah. So music is, it's in a different realm to where we live the rest of life. And without that ingredient, the pie ain't going to cook, right? So it's kind of like we need that element. It's missing, and from some people's lives, and it's got to happen if humanity is going to rise up. Otherwise, we're just gonna we need that light. We need it.
Yeah. If you had to choose one song to bring a group of strangers together, what would it be and why?
So. A group of strangers. So, okay, I'm guessing. So, are we if we're in the English speaking world?
Yeah. Let's assume that.
Yeah, let's assume we're in the English speaking world. And again, it depends on the demographic and the age and all those sorts of things. I love to go to Can't Help Falling in Love because it is a simple song. In terms of like just musically, it has a small range in it. Like it's actually quite easy to sing, if I can put it that way. It's also can be hummed and ahed and oohed, ooh, without sort of like it. And also as a conductor, if you haven't got lyric sheets in front of you, you can very easily say wise man say, and then they say it. Like you can actually put the lyrics in like while you're conducting it. So it's a very useful song from that way. And also it doesn't have any, political, religious sort of, it gets that out of it. There's fantastic gospel songs, which I would totally go to, This Little Light of Mine or all those sorts of things. But as a first song, if I was bringing people together, I would tend to use something which I can teach it in the moment. And also there's really long phrases about it. So it's something where people will slow down in it. I use songs like Happy Together and Cabaret and things like that, which are great, but they're quite wordy, although, the ba, 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 ba is all really good. Anything without words is fantastic. So I'd say Can't Help Falling in Love would be that would sort of be a go-to.
Yeah, I think you used Let It Be when we were in Canberra as well.
I did use Let It Be because I felt like the space needed that at the time.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and again, it's something that you can ooh and ah, and I can put the lyrics in if people haven't got them in front of them. Yeah. And Let It Be is a full acceptance song. Like it's just sort of like, let's not try and make this into anything. Let's just trust our humanity and trust the song and trust that it will be something. And I think that's what we need to learn as human beings, to just trust that we are amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. What would you want to achieve with one wave of your magic wand?
Okay, so that everybody has and knows about a space that they can go and sing in if they want to. So it's that it becomes just a norm in society, in the same way that you go to your GP and if you're not feeling well, you go to your GP and whatever. So maybe you'll go to your CP, your creative practitioner, and you can go there, and that singing is accessible for everybody. So it doesn't matter who you are, what you know, what language you speak, how old you are. What you bring to the table in terms of your physicality or whatever it is, that you have a space that is that you're able to go and feel good and connect and tune into humanity. If you need inspiration, if you need to go and socially collide with people you'd never meet in your life, if you need to go and just feel good, that it's just and that's supported by the federal government, that it's not just for wealthy people. It is accessible to everybody, and that's a very easy network for and for people just to understand that singing is just part of our lives. It's not an extracurricular. It is not something that you have to do well. None of those things. It's just a little bit like park run or something. It's just something that you can engage in, and that the people running those spaces are fully supported, actually paid as artists, and have that proper support, and that the health world understands about them, that the health world knows all those benefits, experiences those benefits, and are probably a part of it all anyway. So it just becomes embedded in our society as it is in every other like it has been forever. We are not inventing anything here. It's the fact that we sing, as I said, happened before we spoke. This is not. I'm just that we can be full of human beings, basically, and driven by a balanced self, not a self of just, I got to tick all this and get all this done and get rid of a little bit of that, little bit of space for something else, and bring a bit of balance to the world, maybe.
Liz Lecoanet, thank you for being my guest today on Leading Notes, and thank you for making music that matters.
Oh, thank you so much, Melissa.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and make sure to leave a review. I acknowledge that this podcast is produced on the lands of the Gayabal and Jarowair peoples of the Toowoomba region, and I pay my respect to all elders. Mark Schultes produced the original music for this podcast. Thanks for listening. Now go make music that matters.